Ingulambikaya Namaha. Om Kamakyaya Namaha. Om Kalakalaya Vidmahe Kalatitaya Dhimahe Tannah Kalabhairava Prachodayat. Namaskaram. So, welcome to yet another video, a sacred space of our Guru Bhairava, where every moment is a step closer to our Ishtartha, the formless truth of Guru Bhairava. And every breath, we as a Bhairava consciousness, sadhakas taking a step closer to make awareness about our Ishta. So today, in this video, we will talk about the grace of our the form of the Bhairava, rarely spoken about, very rarely spoken about, and often he has been diluted or misunderstood. Yet eternally the presence and the shadow of his information are available in certain scriptures and Kashmiri Shaivism, as well as certain books of Tantra, and few articulation is available in Dashamahavidyas. It is the inner form of the realization of the Bhairava in the Swarupa of Tryambaka Bhairava. I believe you would be wondering about what is this Tryambaka Bhairava. We have heard about Tryambakeshwara, the Ishvara Swarupa. But when it comes to Tryambaka, you may be wondering like how exactly Tryambaka Bhairava is connected. Before connecting that, maybe you would be knowing about Tryambakeshwara. So maybe about connecting on this aspect when it comes to the Tryambakeshwara as well as the Tryambaka Bhairava, we'll talk in detail. But before that, let me also make you clear. Tryambaka Bhairava, whoever have done the Dashamahavidyas or whoever knows about the Dashamahavidya, they would be knowing that each particular Devi is connected to one particular Swarupa of Bhairava. And that particular Bhairava is not completely being disclosed, but it is hidden, because over there in Dashamahavidya, Devi is much more prominent. Okay, and when it comes to the Bhairava Swarupa, the Bhairava Swarupa is very unique when it comes to the Dashamahavidyas. So Akshobhya Bhairava, last time we spoke about it, how exactly Akshobhya Bhairava is connecting to Matara. Similar to that, Tryambakeshwara Bhairava is connected to Bhuvaneshwari Ma. Okay, so in the few articulation, it is also connected to Bhukali also. It is also called as in Bhukali. Bhuvaneshwari is also called as in Bhukali. But going into in-depth information about the Dashamahavidyas, we'll talk more about our Guru Bhairava. So maybe you have heard about Tryambakeshwara. So Tryambakeshwara is about the benevolent, the kind-hearted Swarupa of our Ishtartha, Paramashiva. He's in the form of Jyotirlinga, the giver of the life as well as health, worshipped at near the Nasik. So you may be knowing about all these stories also. He is the deity of, we can call it as Mrityunjaya mantra. He actually has been Aradhana being done as a Mrityunjaya. So moreover to that, just to giving a connecting to the dots, you know that actually Gautama Rishi, so he did a penance to in the Brahmagiri hills, such that actually he was able to please Shiva and he was able to get the Atmalinga, or he was able to consecrate, or we can call it as Udbhavalinga, Tryambakeshwara was came into existence. The linga that disappears over the time is called Tryambakeshwara. The sanctum, actually, the woman entering into the sanctum, it is said that actually the lingam will disappear. The untold flow of Godavari river, actually, like the story, like the sage Gautama committed a sin of murdering a cow by taking the bath in the river, wiped off all his sins, similar to the Ganga, whatever we know. The getting rid of that sin and taking the bath, the story that has Rishi Gautama forced river Ganga to stall into the entrance of the grass area, put the vow to the her. This is actually the story of Tryambakeshwara. Maybe we will not talk about more about Tryambakeshwara here. We'll talk about the Swarupa of Tryambaka Bhairava. But here, another form of the same Swarupa of Paramashiva, the Tryambaka Bhairava Swarupa. Very peaceful, not fussy as other Swarupa, as Kala Bhairava Swarupa or Batuka Bhairava Swarupa. Very, very peaceful, very pursy, not externally done any kind of aradhana, but inner, not merely worshipped, but realized by the sadhakas when they perform the Dasha Mahavidya, especially when they come to the Bhuneshwari Swarupa Devi. This is where actually, unless the particular Bhairava Tattva is never been activated, the worship of the Mahavidya will be always very less. So it has been said that Tryambaka Bhaireshwara or Tryambaka Bhairava, unless his worship has not been done in the Dasha Mahavidya, the benevolent or a kind-hearted cannot be controlled by the Bhairava Swarupa at all. He being a consort or the of the Mahabhuneshwari, the third among the, we can call it as Bhairavas. So even in Bhairavas also we call it as, it is not in similar line actually like what we see from the Dashamaha Vidya perspective, first, second, third. No, none of the Swarupas, let me just underline this very clearly. Everyone tells that actually after one Swarupa, next Swarupa was been activated. See, Devi's transformation is not in a one particular stage, 1, 2, 3, 4. Never. It is like in a multiverse, everything popped up at the same time. So every Swarupa of the Devi is so important, and every Swarupa of the concept of the Devi is much more important to the Bhairava consciousness. See, basically, we need to understand Tryambaka Bhairava. When it comes to the Tryambaka Bhairava Swarupa, it has been said that among the Dashamahavidya, when it comes to the Bhuvaneshwari, he is very Saumya Swarupa. He is very, very calm, cool, gentle Swarupa, not Farsi, as I told you. He has to be felt from inside. But here in his particular Swarupa, he performs Abhisheka. He performs Abhisheka to himself, signifying the joy as well as external happiness. So I believe very few of the images would be available today on the internet about the Tryambaka Bhairava, because you may have never seen the Swarupa of the Shiva or a Bhairava where two Kalasha he is holding it. He has a 4 arms and 2 Kalasha he is actually holding, and he is doing Abhisheka for himself. A sacred vessels. Kalasha is nothing but a sacred vessels. So let me just tell you the story how exactly it goes through. See, it has been said that during the early age of the creation, when the creation happened, a question arose among the Devatas and the Siddhas. So basically, Rishimunis as well as Devatas were the people behind all the cosmos when it was being articulated or developed into the way what we are currently seeing it. So even in Puranas, it has been said before the creation was being created, the gods as well as Saptarishis, the Siddhas, were able to talk like who anoint the anointer, or we can call it as who perform the puja of who one who is beyond the puja. See, there are the different way of discussion when it comes to the different lay of discussion, as well as the mythological connection stories when it comes to the each swarupa of the devatas. But here the sages were able to ask to the Brahma that actually who performs the puja of the one who is beyond the puja perspective. That's where the this mystery was actually revealed or disclosed of the Kalasha, where Bhairava resides inside that Kalasha, while most of the Shiva receives the Abhisheka. I believe you would be knowing it. Many Swarupas of the Shiva Swarupa, we normally perform the Abhisheka, wherein Tryambaka Bhairava is a very, very unique. He performs the Abhisheka to himself. Using both the Kalashas, he holds. Okay, the act of nothing but, we may think that actually what is this all about. Even when actually the Rishumunis were able to ask this, Brahma were able to decode this, telling that this is not the act of the ego, but the anandam, the pure joy, very purest form of joy, the overflowing of bliss, of awareness, where actually Shiva himself was able to perform the Kalasha Puja of his own self. These articulations are there in few of the Rudramalaya Tantra, even in Kashi Khanda. That Kalasha contains, like whatever the Kalasha actually Shiva was able to pour on himself, contains of three aspects. Amrita. One is actually, I believe you would be knowing it. Amrita is actually the nectars of immortality. The people who are from the viewers from the other country, they will be texting me about certain words which normally I use it, that what exactly this particular meaning connect from the mythological or Sanatana Dharma perspective. What is this connected to? Most of my time actually goes responding to them, but here I am trying to give a articulation from both the context viewers, so that actually they can understand in a very easiest way. And in case if you have any kind of a query, has always been followed, please feel free to mark an email to me. I'll be very, very happy to answer your questions. I'll be very happy to, even if you are part of our Telegram community, I'll make sure that actually your informations or your questions will be answered. If not, I will surely get this information available from my gurus, and I'll make sure that actually these informations are being shared to you. Okay, coming back to the story. What was there in the Kalasha? So, in the Kashi Khanda, it has been articulated. It has three contents. One is Amritam, the nectar of immortality. What it represents? It represents the essence of the eternal life, the timeless consciousness, Bhairava consciousness himself. The second was Bindu Tattva, the concentrated essence of the creation. It is called Bindu Tattva. Even in Manidvipa, especially when you know about Devi Purana. In Devi Purana, in Manidvipa, when Devi resides in that Manidvipa, Bindu Tattva is one of a very connected words. Maybe actually people will get to know. Even in the Meru Parvata, or we call it as the Shri Yantra, Meru Yantra perspective, a Bindu is been connected. That Bindu is nothing but the Bindu Tattva, the consecrated axis or essence of the entire cosmos creations. Whatever we call it as the entire creation, that Bindu is what it is all about. The synchronization of that seed. See, let me underline this. Unless there is a seed, there is no creation. Okay. It symbolizes the seed of all the manifestation held within Bhairava. This is the second ingredient in that Kalasha. The third ingredient is Chaitanya Rasa, a pure consciousness. See, Chaitanya Rasa is somewhat like a liquid form of consciousness. The consciousness in the form of the air, the consciousness form in the form of the liquid, the consciousness form in the Panchabhutas, whatever we may call it as. But this is a Chaitanya Rasa, a pure consciousness in the liquid form of the consciousness. Here, there would be like a question maybe get arise like, why self-abhishekam? Why Tryambaka Bhairava is trying to do Kalasha, that too in the two Kalasha, a self-abhishekam? Why it was not actually mixed in one particular Kalasha? This may be the question which may get arise. But Tryambaka Bhairava holding two Kalasha in two hands, it signifies that it is a support of two, like not for offering to another, but to pour over his own head in an act, somewhat like actually calling as Swayam Abhishekam or Swa Abhisheka, self worshipping. Because in normally it has been in Shiva Purana, it has been very clearly been articulated. Where is Shiva? Shiva is inside you. Shiva Tattva is inside you. Unless you know about you, the Shiva Tattva inside you, the external puja or say external rituals are always into a vain, or it will be a mechanical performance of the activity. Here, we as a sadhakas of Bhairava consciousness, we need to understand, unless you find Bhairava guna into yourself, understanding Bhairava and experiencing Bhairava is much more important than external rituals. People may tell about it, may be a gesture of the Bhairava, we need to visit to the particular temple of the Bhairava, then only we will be able to get the particular siddhis, or we will be able to get the particular blessings of the Bhairava. Yes, partially. Unless you understand your Bhairava Tattva, it is been articulation example even given in the Purana. Here, we need to understand very clearly, like the Tryambaka Bhairava is trying to teach us that it is not that the Swarupa which we are trying to do external puja, it is the internal puja which we need to start upon. Swa Abhisheka, Swayam Abhisheka is the one of the reflection of the information which he was able to disclose. Try to identify the Shiva Tattva, try to identify the Bhairava Tattva into yourself first. Self worship is first important. Here, the gesture teaches us a supreme tantric insight, or we can call it a supreme tantric truth. Once you start the tantra, once you be in the tantra rituals, normally satvika, tamasika, rajasika, whichever the guna it may be, you need to understand self-realization, or understanding the self tattva is most important, or the key aspects in the tantra. It is somewhat like the divine is complete in itself. A divine is complete within itself. It need not external offerings. Shiva doesn't require any milk. Shiva doesn't require any kind of a puja, homa, havana, yajna. Here, he tells us very clearly, even in Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, whatever the series we are continuing in our Telegram group, we clearly claim Shiva Tattva, Bhairava Tattva is not external, it is an internal experience. The divine is complete within himself. It needs no external doings at all, or external offerings at all. A true joy arises when the self-realize, when you self-realize the self, Shiva Tattva into yourself. Bhairava Tattva, when you understand that I am Bhairava, I am the guna of the Bhairava, then only you become the part of Bhairava consciousness. Similar is what this Tryambaka Bhairava taught us. This is also why Tryambaka Bhairava is associated with the, we can call it as Mrigasha Mudra. Mrigasha Mudra is the gaze of the deer. Normally we call it as Mrigasha Mudra. Even in, you may have seen this particular mudra being performed. This is called Mrigasha Mudra, normally the gaze of the deer. Okay, the full of innocence and the self-realization is what the two Kalasha represents all about. See, rather than going into a mythological insight, let me just tell you, one who have understood about his Bhairava Tattva, one who has understood about the Shiva Tattva about himself, he is the real yogi. You may have heard about this from many of the sages who have walked in this particular bhumi told us that external rituals are really important, but it is a stage where we are supposed to offer him such that actually we can take his drishti on us. But once his drishti is on us, there is a other way of conveying or getting him into our life is about experiencing Shiva Tattva, experiencing Bhairava Tattva in yourself. So, when maybe people may be asking from a mythological point perspective, let me just tell you this. When Devi Bhuvaneshwari questioned his stillness in Mahavidya perspective, when Bhuvaneshwari questioned about the stillness of the Shiva, the way the Tryambaka Bhairava was stilled, the way he was isolated himself, he was experiencing self into the highest level. Bhuvaneshwari Ma was able to ask the question that, like, do you not seek offerings? You do not seek any praise. How then you are still fully active and available here? To this, actually, Bhairava, Tryambaka Bhairava, was able to convey Ma into a very simple way. He smiled and he, in that particular form, his own Kadasha, he disclosed that his own Kadasha consists of two eternal informations or two eternal ingredients. Pouring Amritva over his head is actually why he is always in blissful state. I am, he claims like somewhat like, I am that which gives to itself. Offering to self, it is not selfish. Let me underline this. There is a thin line between selfish and selflessness. Once you know about yourself, you will become selflessness. Tryambaka Bhairava tells, I am that which gives you itself. I am the joy unto myself. This is the Abhisheka of the undivided one within me. See, this is maybe actually uh, it may be hearing weird, but all the Rishuganas, even Saptarishis, were able to give us a key that unless you know the Bhairava Tattva, Shiva Tattva in yourself, externally doing the or knowing the Shiva Swarupa is merely actually like a delusion. You may heard about many of the stories like Duryodhana. He had Krishna in front of him in as Swarupa. Even his avatara, he was able to show before showing to the Arjuna. He was able to show his avatara to Duryodhana, where he was not able to actually realize him at all. He was not able to know that he was the Shiva Swarupa. He was the Bhairava Swarupa. Vishnu was the creator himself. He never realized this at all because he failed to understand that the divine is complete in itself. It no not it need any kind of an offering. Means it is somewhat like I am what which gives to itself. Once you give time for yourself, then only you will be able to realize the external creations of the creator. This is what actually many of the mythological stories have explained us, that unless you experiencing the tattva, you will not be able to experience the real essence of the creator. And here Tryambaka Bhairava was able to decode his Swarupa to Ma, telling that not doing any kind of an external puja to the Swarupa or doing any praise. Do the praise for self, because the Shiva resides in you, the Bhairava resides in you. Here he claims very clearly, I am the joy unto myself. I am the joy unto myself, because he is holding the nectar of the joy. He is holding the nectar of the Triguna, Chaitanya Rasa, the pure consciousness he is holding. Devi was able to understand him very clearly about after his disclosure of this information. See, basically, we as a sadhakas, what we need to understand from a different angle, what exactly the kalasha represents that. See, in the external form, the kalasha is the vessel, or we can call it as the vessel of wholeness, the vessel of complete essence of this creation. Self abhisheka, it is teaching us that the realization that worship ultimately follow back to the self is what Shiva Tattva, Bhairava Tattva is all about. Self Abhishekam. The four hands of the Tryambaka Bhairava represents that it is the control over the four directions, the time cycles around us, the inner elements in us, the Pancha Tattva in us, the five senses which controls the four hands. The Kalasha and the Bhairava wearing the Rudra or the Damaru. He will be holding the Damaru. Kalasha, Rudraksha as well as Damaru is what he is holding in his four hands. It tells that it is a creation, it is a dissolution, and the liberation held in a balance. This is what the three stages teaches us. Kalasha, Rudraksha and the Damaru tells very clearly about it is a creation, dissolution as well as a liberation. Damaru, you know, it is a dissolution. He is going to destroy everything. Kalasha is about the creation. The Rudraksha is about the liberation, because once whoever the sadhaka holds the Rudraksha, he will be able to connect to the divine within himself. That is the reason in Shiva Tattva or Shiva Guna, or even in the Bhairava sadhana perspective, we always tell in the initial stage till you reach to the extent, it has always been said that unless you perform the sadhana from the Rudraksha, you will have always a disconnect between you as well as yourself. Tattva of yourself, of the Shiva Tattva and the Shiva Tattva inside you. The Bhairava Tattva which makes you realize is this of the three formations. See, ideally, what this symbolizes, you need to understand. Tryambaka Bhairava also has three eyes. Tryambaka is nothing but three-eyed. Okay, it is not just a reflection of a physical eyes. It may be a reflection of the information we as a sadhaka need to know. It is a sun. The right eye is a sun. The left eye is the moon himself. The third eye is about the fire, because the third eye is all the Jnana Shakti or Jnanagni is being activated. The trinity of the cosmic perception is activated from the third eye. In the Bhairava Tantra, we need to understand each iconography of the Bhairava is beautifully we can understand from a Swarupa perspective. In the Bhairava Tantra, the third eye is not the symbolic. See, basically we need to understand in each Swarupa of the Bhairava Guna, the third eye represents the living gate. We call it as consciousness, Bhairava consciousness. It is a Fersi path into the truth. Every Swarupa of the Bhairava teaches us this. And in this Tryambaka Bhairava, it teaches us that this is the Jnanagni. This is the third eye, is the fire himself. Unless this Jnanagni is activated, this guna of the human, it will be a Shava. He is not realization of Shiva at all. So, unless the Jnanagni is being activated, Shiva Tattva, the Bhairava Tattva, Bhairava Guna is always merely cannot be understood. There is one particular piece of information which has also been articulated in Linga Purana. Okay, I believe you would all be knowing about it, Linga Purana. I always tell this is actually a very sacred books which all the Bhairava Aradhakas need to know, because once you want to know about the Bhairava consciousness, Bhairava Guna, Shiva is the creator of the Bhairava. He being the himself. Here he is showing himself as a Tryambaka Bhairava. Here it has been said that in the Linga Purana. Like, from my eyes of the fire, from the my eyes of the fire, the Agnya Chakra, or we call it as, if you want to activate even the Agnya Chakra, even in the chakra meditation also we tell, please focus on your third eye. Why? Because your Jnana Agni will be activated. This is what which has been written even in the Linga Purana. It has been said the Shiva, Parama Shiva, was able to activate or get the Swarupa of his own Swarupa when Devi asked, like, the third eye's Agnya Chakra or Agnya, from third eye, he was able to born the, or he was able to create Tryambaka Bhairava. He who sees what none else sees is what Tryambaka is all about. He who sees what none else sees, the Agnya Tattva, is what Tryambaka is all about. He is not like a Kala Bhairava, not divorce time, nor like Vatuka Bhairava, dancing on the grace of the ignorance, or as taking control of the entire situation. See, here we need to understand Tryambaka Bhairava sits silently at the door of the Agnya Chakra, the flame of the yogic fire. Every yogis, everyone, whoever we call it as a realized one, it is only when their Agnya Chakra is activated. And Agnya Chakra will be activated once you realize yourself first. And that can be only bestowed by the Bhairava Tattva, Bhairava consciousness in the Tryambaka Bhairava Swarupa perspective. And the guarding the wisdom that transcends every liberation is Bhairava, Tryambaka Bhairaveshwara. This was actually one of the hidden secret information which is written in the Linga Purana. Very short information which has been written, like activating the Agnya Chakra. Here it is disclosing about the Tryambaka. Even the Jyotirlinga's perspective, Tryambaka is very, very essential. Even in Devi Purana, the Shakti appearance is also very, very clear, articulated very beautifully about the Tryambakeshwara Bhairava. Here, Bhuvaneshwari as Brahmakali or Bhuvakali, she is activated. Her Swarupa is Bhuvakali or Brahmakali, the dark and the void, wise as the womb of the time. She is actually the womb of the time. In the Brahma, Bhuvakali, she burns the illusions silently. She tells that actually my fire of the knowledge is the gift in this particular emptiness. This is what Bhuvakali or Brahmakali activates her Swarupa in the Tryambaka Bhairava's perspective. Together, this particular form of the union of the Shiva and the Devi Swarupa, the Bhairava as well as the Devi Swarupa, in the Dashamahavidya, especially in the Bhuvaneshwari perspective, it claims that the knowledge is my gift in this emptiness. That emptiness is nothing but Tryambaka Bhairava Swarupa. Together they form the Jnana. Jnana, that is a Tantra pair, or we can call it as aspect of the symbolization. Here, Bhairava, Tryambaka Bhairava is somewhat like a knowledge as a fire. And Bhuvakali or Brahmakali, or we can call it as Bhuvaneshwarima, is a wisdom of the void. See, here Tryambaka Bhairava, he burns the ignorance and she reveals the truth of what is being followed to self. He may be the Jnanagni, but she is a Shunya. She is a Shunya Bodhini, Bhuvaneshwari, because unless Bhuvatattva, the earth element, is not there, the essence of the any kind of a cosmos has not been created. That's how the balance has been created in the both the gunas of the Deva. Even in Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, it has been said that the fire of realization, Tryambaka Bhairava, is not directly mentioned in the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra perspective, but it is been mentioned in Dharana, in the verse number 38. Normally it has been mentioned that one who fixes the gaze of the center between their eyebrow and merge awareness there, the mid dissolves, one becomes Shiva. This is the verse. Shiva himself was able to disclose this information to the Ma. But here, what this particular Vijnana Bhairava Tantra verse is telling us is one who is aware about the Shiva Guna himself, he will become Shiva. This is Tryambaka Bhairava Dharana, a practice where the three-eyed Guna becomes the fire altar himself, and the sadhaka, we being the upasakas, offer through the absolute surrenderness. That's where actually we will be able to gain the connection between him. Even in the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, whenever the information is being shared in the Telegram group, we always tell, do not read this, practice this. And this 112 ways of the liberation is a key. And it doesn't mean that 112 keys are is for particular lock. This particular lock has only one key. But you need to know which particular key is good for this for lock. And that can be only realized when you know all these 112 ways of understanding Bhairava consciousness. See, basically, Bhairava Dharana is nothing but it's a bhava, it's an inner mode, or we can call it as an inner connection between our Guru Tattva or Guru Bhairava connection. Witnessing through that third eye, activating the Agnya Chakra, and the Siddhis, whatever we get. See, do not fall on the Siddhis, whatever you call it as Siddhi, it can be in a simple term, it can be called as a fruits, outcome of the sadhanas. Non-duality realization. In Advaita Bodha, it is very clearly told. Once you realize there is no difference between you as well as Shiva Tattva, there is no difference between you as well as a Bhairava Tattva, that's where the Bhairava comes into our life. Even there are certain articulations which has been beautifully been said, even in Kaula Trika Tantra. Here actually it is about the inner Shiva unreleased way of connecting between the Shiva Tattva. Here, when the Tryambaka Bhairava came, the three Swarupas or the three eyes, actually, whatever we call it as, in the Shaivism, Shiva Shaivism, Kaula Tantra, basically, it is merely not the Shiva. Tryambaka is not merely the Shiva in the Kaula Tantra. He is a source of the entire creations. It is the will. It is the knowledge, it is action, it is the will is nothing but the Ichha Shakti. Knowledge is not none other than Jnana Shakti. The action is none other than Kriya Shakti. This is Tryambaka Bhairava, where the Shakti awakens within. The powerful, or whatever we call it, this particular Swarupa is not externally been done any kind of a puja. It is the internal Shiva Guna Tattva is itself. This is Atmalinga. This is what the real Atmalinga Swarupa, which has been articulated in all the mythological story when it comes to the Shaivism. See, here you know that actually once the Atmalinga or the Tryambaka Bhairava, the Atmalinga is nothing but it is a Tryambaka Bhairava. The peaceful Swarupa, the Tryambaka Bhairava is none other than the Guru of the entire fire, the fire of the Jnana, the fire of Ichha Shakti, the will, the Kriya Shakti. He makes us to act. All these things once happens when the Jnana Shakti, the knowledge get awakens. He is a, we can call it as Pashyanti Bhairava. What is that Pashyanti Bhairava? Where thought has not turned into the speech. When the thought is not being turned into the speech, it is called Pashyanti in Sanskrita. And that particular stage is called as Pashyanti Bhairava. He is awakened through the Jnana Agni from the Ajapa Japa, the soundless mantra, heard only into the deep silence. When you get connected to it, Ajapa Japa, we have already explained about this. Ajapa Japa, when you get connected to, when you see the mantra, when you recite the mantra within yourself without even uttering your mouth, you get connected and you are able to utter the Namasmarana. That is where Ajapa Japa get activated. Pashyanti Bhairava is activated before the thought is arised. and that particular thought is not yet turned into the speech, that particular stage is Pashyanti. That's where our Tryambaka Bhairava is being activated. See, here we need to understand into many aspects. There may be a questions getting arised before they come to my mailbox. Let me just disclose this. People may ask, like, Tryambakeshwara as well as Tryambaka Bhairava, what is the major difference? See, you need to understand, Tryambakeshwara Jyotirlinga was actually activated by the Gautama Maharishi. Okay, but Tryambaka Bhairava is not the Swarupa which has been externally done any kind of a rituals. In Jyotirlinga of Tryambakeshwara, we do a Jyotirlinga. It is one of the important Swarupa of the Shiva Swarupa Jyotirlinga, where actually we do a puja, aradhana. Jyotirlinga, especially when it comes to Tryambakeshwara, it is a Saumya, it is a peaceful. And here, Tryambaka Bhairava in the Tantra form, it is about the inner self. It is a Ugra transformation. Ugra, why I am trying to tell you is, unless that fire, the Ichha Shakti is being activated, we will never be able to connect it. That is why it is a Ugra Tattva or Ugra Bhava. Here, the way we worship both the Shiva Tattva or both the Bhairava, it should be different. Tryambakeshwara as well as Tryambaka Bhairava. Tryambakeshwara, it is a devotion, it is a bhakti, it is a grace, it is a perception. When we create it, that's where the worship is being done. Devotion as well as a bhakti. Whereas when it comes to the Tryambaka Bhairava, it is about the sadhana, jnana, it is a dharana. This is the way we can do. When you start doing all these things, then only we will be able to understand about the inner Shiva yourself, the Atmalinga, Tryambaka Bhairava yourself. The three eyes representation in the Tryambaka Bhairashwara is somewhat like grace. It is a perception. Here it is a represent of the inner fire, the insight. Connect yourself to know yourself to the Jnana Swarupa of the Shiva himself. Here the mantra, you know that actually Tryambakeshwara, we recite Mahamrityunjaya mantra. But in Tryambaka Bhairashwara, there is one particular mantra, there is particular Tantra mantra which is being recited, which I will not be able to disclose here. But we have one particular mantra which activates the Tryambaka Bhairava. This particular information of the mantra is being shared once you have completed your Tritiya Charana in the Sadhana Paddhati. So basically, once you complete the Tritiya Charana, that's where actually there is a different way of Aradhana. There is a different type of a Sadhana Paddhati which we normally follow. There are few of the sadhakas who are part of that particular stage who normally do a sadhana in that particular aspects. See, in Tryambakeshwara, it is about the healing, longevity, because Mrityunjaya mantra is all about getting healed, getting the longevity of this particular self. Here, Tryambaka Bhairava Aradhana is somewhat like a liberation. It is about through the ego dissolution. Knowing this self can only happen when you know yourself much more better. Again, let me underline, there is a thin line between selfish and selflessness. You need to understand this. There is somewhat like Mahamrityunjaya transformation. You all know that actually Om Tryambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam. The complete mantra I'm not going to recite because this has to be told into the utmost surrender and love. In the bhakti, this mantra protects and heals. I believe all of you would be knowing it. But in the tantra, the same mantra, even to the Tryambakeshwara, the same mantra can be recited. But the modulation of the mantra little bit changes. But in the tantra, the same mantra becomes the doorway. When the fire of the Agnya Chakra is activated or awakened, this mantra calls Tryambakeshwara from within. Even this is the reason when people do any kind of a sadhana paddhati, when they start the sadhana, we tell Om Tryambakeshwara mantra, Mrityunjaya mantra to be done for the particular mala. Reason behind is to know the Atmalinga or the Tryambakeshwara guna perspective. You need to recite this particular Mahamrityunjaya mantra. Very, very powerful. It is a doorway. Many books have been written about this particular mantra. About Mahamrityunjaya mantra is a doorway. through the antarjnana, the inward reception, or we can call it as the inward awareness, the ajapa japa. Once the ajapa japa is activated, effortless mantra is activated, and we can call it as a fixed gaze. Trika, we can call it as fixed gaze. One moves, the one sadhaka moves from the protection into the deathlessness. That is where the Mahamrityunjaya mantra will come into a picture. If I want to talk about Mahamrityunjaya mantra, it is a very deepest connection in comes to the Tantric Jnana. This is the, to put it into a very essence or a subtle way, I can call it as, this is the Bhairava consciousness layer, foundation. So, as you know how exactly this Tryambaka Bhairaveshwara was able to make us aware that the Atmalinga is none other than Tryambaka Bhairava. This is the reason you have may heard about many of the stories. Even in one of a story where you would be knowing where Ravana, when he asked the Atmalinga, Shiva was able to give him. But when his ego was peak, when he thought that actually entire Kailasha will be taken to his particular Rajya or Sri Lanka, Shiva only by his little toe, he pressed it and entire Kailasha became so connected, or we can call it as unshakable situation where even he was not able to make any little bit of changes of that particular guna. See here, what we need to understand is the Atmalinga, whatever is there, it is actually the Bhairava guna himself. It is the focus between, see how exactly it can be done. Dharana in the particular, especially in Vijnana Bhairava Tantra in the verse 38, as we told, it is all about activating your third eye, your Agnya Chakra. It is about the visualizing your third eye. It is the visualizing of the flame, the Agnya, the fire, the knowledge. It may be like white, it may be white, black, or a golden. See, visualization goes into a different way. Burning all the thoughts and being stuck in that particular thought merges the stillness within is where the particular dharana is all explained about. Here we need to understand very clearly that unless this particular guna or tattva is being understood, what we understand about the Bhairava is merely about what we have thought about him. See, we as a Bhairava sadhakas, we need to understand a different aspect when it comes to the understanding the Bhairava guna. And how exactly this can be done? It can be done into a different ways. Maybe like in the people may be thinking that why exactly we talk about connection about Bhairava in all the Swarupas of the Shiva. Shiva, as you all know, Bhairava came from the third eye of the Shiva, and the third eye is actually the portal. That is the consciousness, and that consciousness is none other than what we practice as Bhairava consciousness, the most powerful way of getting connected to the self. Here we need to understand into a different ways when it comes to understanding the Shiva Guna perspective. Even you may be thinking like how exactly the Tryambakeshwara, it is a house of one of the 12 Jyotirlingas. I believe you would be knowing all these things. Here, in being in a three phases representing the Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Here, actually, the linga is represented to three phases. Okay, the temple is always known as it is an intense architecture. The mandapa is created in such a way that actually we need to know the meaning of the Jyotirlinga. So Jyotirlinga is nothing but Jyoti is somewhat like a radiance. Linga is the almighty Swarupa of Shiva, Paramashiva himself. And this is where there is a soft connection between Tryambakeshwara as well as the Tryambaka Bhairava. Even the Swarupa of the Tryambakeshwara came activated from the third eye of the Paramashiva himself. The radiance of that particular linga is where the Jyotirlinga becomes. The radiance of the Jnana, which becomes the Tryambaka Bhairava himself. That is the Bhairava consciousness. See, basically, people, many of them actually ask me like the story behind the Tryambakeshwara. As I told you, in the Godavari river, especially when the Gautama Rishi, he was in the Brahmagiri hills, actually Shiva was able to appear, and he was, see, basically I don't want to go into the details which I has already have told in the starting of it. Why I'm trying to tell you this information is, every one of the sadhakas, Sanatanis know that visiting to the 12 Jyotirlinga is not a milestone or a checklist. It is somewhat like actually doing a window shopping, going to the everywhere, understanding that, oh, I have visited this place, I have visited this place, and I have gone to this place, I have visited all the 12 Jyotirlingas. There is no use at all unless you need to know which particular Jyotirlinga is really meant for you. Even in astrology, it is beautifully been articulated, telling that which particular Jyotirlinga is actually essence of your existence. Here, rather than actually visiting to the temples, Tryambaka Bhairaveshwara is teaching us, understand, know the Atmalinga, understand the Tryambaka Bhairava. Unless the kalasha of the knowledge is poured upon you, unless that activation of the Ichcha Shakti, Jnana Shakti is not been activated, the essence of your existence will be limited. You will be always in checklist. I have visited the temple, this temple, I have visited the Kailash, I have visited all the Jyotirlinga, I have done dusted. Now I'll go to the once I have left my this body, I'll go to the Shivapuri. I'll go to the Shiva himself. Not at all. Unless you realize the Shiva inside you, unless you know that Shiva is within ourself. Understanding is the first stage, knowing is the second stage, activating is the third stage, and becoming one inside himself is the final stage of the Tryambaka Bhairava, the Atmalinga himself. So maybe this particular video I would request you to listen once again, because there is a connection of dots which is being shared between the Tryambakeshwara as well as Tryambaka Bhairava. The essence is very simple. Know yourself. Know the Shiva inside yourself. That's where the Bhairava Guna Tattva get activated in our life. Maybe the information which will be much more deeper when it comes to the Tryambakeshwara Bhairava. When it comes to the dharana, see, I always tell, don't get fixed into the sadhana as well as the dharana paddhati perspective. Each dharana, we need to first understand the iconography of the Bhairava himself, such that actually we realize him, why exactly he is in this Swarupa, such that this particular self get merged into him, such that I know him better. In this is very beautifully been said even in the Tantra Raja Tantra, like no Mahavidya sadhana is being complete without knowing the Bhairava Guna. Even it may be invoking, like just an example, it may be invoking the Chinnamasa, it may be Bhuvaneshwari, it may be Tripura Sundari, it may be Tarama, it may be Kalima. Succeed, you cannot succeed unless you symbolize, you know the Bhairava Guna. You unless activate the Bhairava Guna, there is no Vidya, Mahavidya, you will be able to gain it. Who carries the power of absorption, reflection, the transforming the Devi's grace can happen only with the help of Bhairava. Guru Bhairava is the only way. As I always tell, any kind of, say, Devi Swarupa, it may be like when it comes to Tryambaka Bhairaveshwara, we talk about Bhuvaneshwari, Bhukali, the divine partner of the Bhuvaneshwari. The Tryambakeshwara, it is about governing entire thing. It is the governing about the space, the perception, the stillness. Here we need to understand Devi is a creates the field of existence, and Bhairava stabilizes all these things. And as I told you earlier, the Bindu is a vastness, the pillar of the awareness around which the entire universe, entire cosmos of the dance, we call it as we play a drama in the play of in the in the stage of in the stage of the particular Daivaguna. We are just playing in his the way he's playing with us. It is the cosmic dance. We are just a dancer in his creation. Here we need to understand very clearly the Ananda Tattva can only be realized once you know the Bhairava Tattva in yourself. So as we spoke, he performs the Abhisheka, Swayam Abhishekam, where the Shiva do a Abhisheka for himself. Similar is Atmananda. Unless you perform the Abhisheka in your Atma Shiva, yourself, your own guna of the Bhairava, connecting to the own form of a Shiva Bhairava Swarupa is merely just an external form. The state of this particular completion is called Bhairava is completed, full and drip in blissness. That is, nothing externally is needed in that particular stage. That's the way all the sadhakas are supposed to go into these stages. The deep symbolization. Many people are in a dilemma thinking that I'm already in that state. There is no need of any doing anything. Not at all. See, that is the reason I always tell. Even in Vijnana Bhairava, once you know about the 112 ways of the keys, you will get to know about the which particular lock, the particular key is essence for you. In similar way, unless you perform the sadhana, unless you perform the dharana, unless you know the rituals, or unless you have understood what is the importance of the rituals, knowing this nothing is external is needed is very, very mere. The deep symbolization, what we need to understand in this tantric truth is the one of the inner Bhairava is realized. All worship becomes a realization of self in the self, and that's where we as a sadhakas need to get him into our life. See, it is merely to understand him, know him very, very easy, and that is only about surrenderness. The surrenderness in such a way that actually when you take his name, you get diluted him in himself. You know about him, the Abhishekam, whatever you are trying to do the Abhishekam in your Atmalinga. Do the Abhishekam as how the Tryambaka Bhairaveshwara in the external form, he is trying to teach us that the connectivity is not from the outside. The connectivity outside is merely a medium, but it can really get activated once you know the self within that. Actually, your Atmalinga is none other than Tryambaka Bhairava himself. Maybe with that note, I'll take a pause of this particular video today. Maybe we'll come out with one more beautiful Swarupa of our Guru Bhairava, where we will talk about, know about him, understand about his Swarupa, and know about his Guna into a complete observing him into ourselves. Om Bhairavaya Namaha. Om Hingulambikaya Namaha. Om Kamatyaya Namaha. Om Hingule Paramahingule Amrutarupini Tanushakti Manashive Shri Hingulaya Namaha. Namaskaram.